Chapter 57. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Luo Qingtong dashed through the Jiwu mountain range as fast as she could. Over the past few days, the situation in the Jiwu mountain had been extremely chaotic. Many powerful martial artists and soul masters flew across the Jiwu mountain. Their powerful auras swept across the entire Jiwu mountain as if they were looking for something. Luo Qingtong knew that they were looking for the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace and the whereabouts of the divine sky-connecting beast. It was a pity that both of these things were in her hands. These people were destined to get nothing. Occasionally their auras would sweep past her. When they realized that she was only a martial master, they would pass by her without hesitation. However, they didn't know that this little martial master who they didn't even take seriously was the person they were looking for. The person who had inherited the inheritance of the Immortal sect. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Luo Qingtong easily left the Jiwu mountain range and headed towards Windgaze City. Windgaze City, Easternly Nation. Luo Xining sat in her room and looked at the shining armor in her hands. Luo Xining knew that this armor was left behind by Luo Qingtong's father. Others might think that this set of armor was nothing special. However, Luo Xining knew that if the value of this armor was made known, even the royal family of Tianyu would drool over it. Luo Xining did not know how Luo Qingtong's parents got this armor. However, she knew that right now this set of armor belonged to her. Even the admission to the Tianyu branch of the Empire of Qin was hers. Luo Qingtong was better than her in every aspect. However, she still ended up with nothing. Everything that Luo Qingtong had was hers. Who asked her to be so stupid? Luo Xining thought as she smiled. She glanced at the recommendation letter for the Tianyu branch of the Empire of Qin. This letter of recommendation was a place to enter Tianyu branch of the Empire of Qin. With this letter of recommendation, even if Luo Xinning was just a young lady of a marquis family from an inferior country, she would still be able to study in the Tianyu branch of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. It was a gift from the royal family of the Tianyu Empire to Luo Qingtong in case she would be embarrassed as the future crown princess. The Empire of Qin's Holy Academy was the highest cultivation academy of the Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty. It was also a place that all cultivators dreamed of going to. The strongest martial artists and soul masters were there. He had the best teacher, the most powerful cultivation method and the most practical martial skill. You can learn everything you want there, as long as you are strong enough and have enough talent. Luo Xining believed that she was talented. If she hadn't been born in the Luo family, she could have entered the Tianyu branch academy. Although her cultivation was not as good as Luo Qingtong's, she was actually at the 4th level of the martial master realm. The reason why she hid it was that she wanted to bide her time and keep a trump card. However, she was also a young lady of a marquis family from an inferior country, and her strength was not enough. Luo Xining had no chance to enter the Tianyu branch academy, but Luo Qingtong could. Why? Thinking of this, Luo Xining broke the jade comb in her hand. She was more talented than Luo Qingtong and more powerful than Luo Qingtong. Was she destined to be poor all her life because she was not as lucky as Luo Qingtong? She didn't believe in fate. But didn't she kill Luo Qingtong? He even took all of her things for himself. After she finished her cultivation in the Tianyu branch academy, she could even go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. How could Luo Qingtong compare with her? He was lucky. But having too good of a life was also a kind of disaster. If she wasn't so lucky and offended that person, Luo Xining wouldn't dare to kill her. After all, Luo Qingtong was protected by Luo Qingtong. Luo Xining couldn't defeat Luo Qingtong. But there was someone who could. Luo Xining sneered. She knew that Luo Qingtong would definitely investigate the cause of Luo Qingtong's death, but he would never find out. Chapter 58. Eldest Miss. Outside the Luo family's gate, the gatekeeper stared at the girl standing outside the gate. His face turned green and white as if he had seen a ghost. Eldest Miss. Wasn't she dead? Could it be that she was unwilling to leave so she came back in broad daylight? Thinking of this, the gatekeeper was so scared that he pissed his pants. His legs went soft and he almost knelt down. Eldest Miss. Please do me a favor. Please don't lower yourself to my level. I only said a few bad things about you. I deserve to be beaten. Please don't make things difficult for me. The gatekeeper cried with tears and snot flowing. Originally, he and Luo Qingtong did not have any conflict. When the original body was still alive, she was on good terms with most of the Luo family. For the sake of grandfather Luo, who would not be polite to this eldest miss. Even second madam, who had always been crafty and unforgiving, did not dare to say anything to eldest miss. What's more, eldest miss was the strongest in the younger generation of the Luo family. But who asked eldest miss to meet with an accident later on? When third miss of the second branch gained power, second madam's tail immediately rose to the sky. Now she was busy packing things to go to the main house. They said that since eldest miss was dead, the mansion would belong to the second branch in the future. Who asked third miss to be the strongest in the younger generation, other than eldest miss? In order to please second madam, they had to say some bad things about eldest miss. Who would have thought that eldest miss would come back from the dead? The gatekeeper was so scared that his soul almost flew away. He almost knelt down and kowtowed to Luo Qingtong. Eldest miss, please spare me. The guards inside heard the commotion and immediately ran out. When they saw this scene, they immediately gasped. Eldest miss. Didn't they say that eldest miss was dead? Could it be that she really came back from the dead in broad daylight? The group of people felt their hair stand on end. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at them without saying a word. She wanted to see how many people were in the big Luo family and how many were ghosts. The girl stood quietly outside the door. She didn't say anything and didn't move at all. She looked like a jade sculpture. When Luo Qingtong came back, she first found an inn to take a bath and change her clothes before coming back. Her appearance was already exceedingly beautiful. After receiving the succession of the Immortal Slayer Palace and being baptized by the two artifacts, her physique and temperament had completely changed. Her skin was as white as jade, and under the sunlight, it seemed to be transparent. When the gatekeeper and the guards saw this, their eyes immediately widened. They were even more certain that Luo Qingtong was a ghost. Young miss, although we know that you died unjustly, the dead cannot be brought back to life. Everyone's fate is like this, you. When he said this, he suddenly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Luo Qingtong was getting impatient. She raised her head and looked at him. Facing the young girl's pair of black and empty eyes, the guard immediately let out a blood-curdling screech and tumbled backwards. Ghost. Eldest miss has turned into a ghost and is here to take our lives. In the entire Luo family and even in Windgaze City, who didn't know that eldest Miss Luo's pair of clear eyes were extremely beautiful. They were once praised as water in a jade cup. But this young girl's eyes were extremely empty. If she wasn't a ghost, what was she? Luo Qingtong was speechless when she saw those people running away one by one. She hadn't done anything yet. They were already so scared. If she were to make a move, wouldn't these people be scared to death? Right at this moment, a sharp female voice suddenly came from inside. Chapter 59. While they were talking, a stout lady with a sharp and unkind face walked out surrounded by a group of servants. The lady was wearing a golden buyao on her head. She swayed as she walked, but because of her bucket-like body she looked particularly funny. Who dares to make trouble in the Marquis mansion? As soon as the lady came out, she opened her sharp and high-pitched voice. It was the second madam of the Luo family. At this moment she was staring at Luo Qingtong with disdain and sneered, "Where did this little bee asterisk come from? How dare she pretend to be the eldest daughter of the Luo family and make trouble in front of the Marquis mansion? She really doesn't know what's good for her." As the second madam said this, she was indescribably shocked. She looked at Luo Qingtong's fairy-like face and felt that her beauty was breathtaking. This bee asterisk, she didn't die. Not only that, she seemed to have become more beautiful. The second madam looked at Luo Qingtong's face with jealousy. Others might think that Luo Qingtong was a ghost, but the second madam of the Luo family knew that Luo Xining had poisoned Luo Qingtong and made her blind. Their faces might look alike, but it was not a coincidence that they looked alike and happened to be blind. This B** was Luo Qingtong. However, the second madam had just heard the guards say that Luo Qingtong was a ghost. Her mind raced and she immediately reacted. Luo Qingtong was dead. This was a fact recognized by the whole Luo family. If grandfather Luo didn't insist that he wouldn't admit Luo Qingtong's death until the body was found, a cenotaph for Luo Qingtong might have been erected. As long as she didn't admit that she was Luo Qingtong and killed her before grandfather Luo came back, who would know that this B*T didn't die and came back? Thinking of this, the second madam sneered and said to the guards, "Beat her to death. How dare she play tricks in front of the Marquis mansion?" Before she finished her words, Luo Qingtong's empty and dark eyes had turned to her. Little B*Tsh? This was a new name. Luo Qingtong's eyes didn't have any expression, but her eyes seemed to be smiling. Through her eyes she could clearly see the expression on second madam's face, including the shock and viciousness in her eyes for a moment. Luo Qingtong applauded the second madam's performance in her heart. What a vicious heart! Moreover, it was ruthless, decisive and ruthless. After finding out that she was the real Luo Qingtongs, she wanted to kill her in front of the Marquis mansion. Luo Qingtong of the Marquis mansion, of the Marquis Luo Qingtongs. Of the Luo Qingtong of Luo of the Luo Qingtong. Luo was Luo. In the future, when grandfather Luo came back, Luo Qingtong could cry and say that it was a mistake. Who asked her to be blind? It was pardonable for her to admit that she was wrong. What a scheming woman. No wonder she could teach Luo Xining to be such a scheming B*T. It was said that she was not the first wife of Luo Qingtong, but was promoted by Luo Qingtong after Luo Xining was favored by Luo Qingtong. This pair of mother and daughter in front of the original host pretended to be kind mother and sister and coaxed the original host. Now that Luo Xining was in power, she showed her big tail? Luo Qingtong looked at the second madam in front of her with a faint smile. The joy in her empty and dark eyes showed how dangerous she was at the moment. Chapter 60. Second aunt, you're such a good second aunt. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, her figure flashed and teleported in front of second madam. Smack! She slapped second madam viciously. Hurry up and stop her! Second madam shrieked. She did not expect that a blind person like Luo Qingtong would be able to locate her by hearing her voice and appear in front of her in an instant. Are these servants all dead? They actually allowed her to appear in front of her like this. However, second madam did not know that even if all these people were blocking her, Luo Qingtong would still be able to reach her if she wanted to. She would slap her a few times if she wanted to. Smack, smack, smack. The air was filled with the sound of slap after slap. Speaking of which, it was strange. The moment the second madam opened her mouth, all the servants rushed over. How dare you? How dare you hit second madam? Quick! Catch her! However, no matter how they rushed over, Luo Qingtong's figure was always able to move slightly to the side and avoid all their movements. She stood in a blind spot that no one could reach and slapped second madam again and again. The etiquette, filial piety and hierarchy in this world were completely useless to Luo Qingtong. He was just a concubine. Did she really think that she was an elder? So what if she was an elder? If she did not respect her elders, she did not deserve to be called an elder. So what if she hit her? Luo Qingtong sneered. Even as second madam screamed again and again, the strength of her slaps did not lessen at all. Every single one of them was perfectly executed. Every time second madam was slapped, she would spit out a tooth. In just a short while, almost half of second madam's teeth had been knocked out. Now even her screams were leaking out. I'm screwed. I'm screwed. At first, second madam was still yelling at Luo Qingtong and the servants, but in the end she could only cry bitterly and beg for mercy. However, the words that came out of his mouth were completely leaked. Luo Qingtong calmly dodged the attacks of the servants. As she fought, she asked faintly, "What did you say? I can't hear you clearly. Speak louder." However, most of second madam's teeth had been knocked out by her. The louder he spoke, the more air would leak out. How could he explain it clearly? As for the guards and maids around her, they couldn't even touch Luo Qingtong. Second madam was so angry that she cursed these people in her heart for being ingrates, helping Luo Qingtong to bully her. Otherwise, with her strength as a 6th-stage martial master, how could she not dodge this brat's attack? That's right. Luo Qingtong was a bad girl. Every time she dodged, the route and angle she took was very strange. The attacks of the guards and maids cancelled each other out. Some of them even attacked second madam and blocked most of her attacks, allowing Luo Qingtong to slap her more easily. Just as second madam was about to collapse from Luo Qingtong's slaps and almost all of her teeth were falling out, Luo Xinning, who had just finished washing up, rushed over. Big sister. What are you doing? Seeing this scene, Luo Xinning was shocked and hurried forward to stop Luo Qingtong. Her voice also successfully stopped the attacks of the maids and guards. Eldest miss. This girl that they mistook as a ghost was really their eldest miss. But, didn't second madam say that she was a liar? Chapter 61. Dong. Seeing everyone's gaze on her, second madam couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground with a thud. She had lost all her face today. She was beaten up at the gate of the Lord Protector's manor. That was fine. However, no matter how hard she tried, she still could not deny Luo Qingtong's identity. Why was she beaten up like this? Second madam could not take it and fainted. Third sister. Luo Qingtong tilted her head and looked in Luo Xinning's direction. She raised her hand and hooked her finger at a servant beside her. Handkerchief. The servant girl hurriedly handed over the handkerchief in her hand. First miss, I'm sorry. The servant girl apologized softly. She had participated in the attack on Luo Qingtong just now. It's okay. Luo Qingtong did not want to argue with these people. She had already dealt with second madam. Moreover, these people's previous attacks had all been directed at second madam. With second madam's temperament, she would definitely vent her anger on them after she woke up. At that time, whether or not they could avoid this calamity would depend on whether or not they were smart enough. Luo Qingtong took the handkerchief and wiped her hands carefully. Then she threw the handkerchief on the ground like it was rubbish. She smiled and lifted her head. She looked in the direction of Luo Xinning's voice and said, "Good sister, we haven't seen each other for a long time." Luo Qingtong was not wrong at all. The person that the original owner hated the most, other than the royal family of Tianyu, was Luo Xinning. Although Luo Qingtong did not want to be trapped by the original owner's obsession, she hated scheming bitches. And Luo Xinning was a classic example. And she was the type that she despised the most. If you say you are smart, then so be it. If you have ambition, then so be it. But she shouldn't have used and stepped on the original owner who was sincere to her to get to the top. If it was not for the original Luo Qingtong, Luo Xinning would have been killed by the indifference of the backyard when she was weak and sick. Including her talent and strength, which one of them wasn't given to her by the original owner. Without the original owner, would she have precious herbs to treat illnesses? Could she find a pharmacist to treat her illness? Without the original owner, how could her martial arts talent be activated? What a sickly person. What future did she have? Not to mention the fact that the original owner had secretly given her her own cultivation resources, allowing her to have her current strength. The host was Old Man Luo's most beloved granddaughter, the only child of the first branch. She was the future fifth princess of the Tianyu Empire. The resources she had were dozens of times more than the young misses of ordinary low-level marquis manors. Even the people of the Eastern Fence royal family were envious of Luo Qingtong's treatment and resources. They would think of ways to get close to her. However, because the original owner pitted Luo Xinning's body, she gave most of her resources to her weak and delicate sister. The resources that Luo Xinning received were more than double that of Luo Qingtong. It was because of the nourishment from such a large amount of resources and herbs that Luo Xinning's poor constitution did not affect her martial arts cultivation and advancement. Without the original owner, Luo Xinning was not even worth a fart. How could she plot against the original owner and replace her position? But what did she do? She destroyed the original owner's cultivation and blinded her eyes. Finally, she threw her to a group of unknown people in black. Did she hate the original owner so much? Why did she hate her? Without the original owner, she was even worse than a guard dog in the Luo family. She could take the position of the successor of the Marquis Manor, but she should not do it at the cost of hurting the original owner. If she really had the ability to replace the original owner, would she not be afraid of not being able to do it? Luo Qingtong sneered. Chapter 62. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Luo Xinning's face turned pale. She realized that Luo Qingtong was very different from what she remembered. After confirming that Luo Qingtong had returned alive, Luo Xinning was very anxious at first. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to be so lucky to come back alive under such circumstances. If she had known, she would not have exposed her identity. However, Luo Xining only panicked for a moment and quickly calmed down. She knew Luo Qingtong very well. She was a woman who was so kind that she was almost stupid and weak. As long as she made up a lie and said that the person who hurt Luo Qingtong was not her, but someone else, and cried, Luo Qingtong's heart would soften very quickly. He had so many tricks up her sleeve. How could she not handle such a stupid woman? But now Luo Xining was not so sure. She realized that Luo Qingtong had changed. The girl stood at the bottom of the stairs and looked up at her. She was in such a weak position, but she still looked like she was standing at the peak. She just looked at her with a faint smile on her lips, which made Luo Xining's heart skip a beat. You are not Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong would not talk to her like this. She would not have such a cold aura. Yes. Of course I am not Luo Qingtong. The girl's words were shocking. After dying once, how can I still be that stupid Luo Qingtong who did not even know how she died? Don't you think so, my good sister? The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was very bright. Although it was spring and summer and the weather was slightly warm, Luo Xining could not help but feel a chill in her bones. The girl's words were flawless. However, Luo Xining knew that this person was no longer the Luo Qingtong in her memory. In other words, after going through a life-and-death situation, Luo Qingtong had completely changed. Luo Xining could no longer be controlled by her. Luo Xining clearly recognized this point. Her entire body instantly stiffened. No one knew better than her what it meant for Luo Qingtong to not be stupid. This meant that her status in the Luo family was about to plummet. This meant that she was about to be pushed to the bottom of the mud. Fortunately, she had already gotten what she wanted. Luo Qingtong wanted to take it back? He was dreaming. It didn't matter even if Luo Qingtong wasn't stupid. She couldn't find any evidence that she had harmed her. Without evidence, she couldn't do anything to him. And by relying on the things in his hands, he could also surpass Luo Qingtong in the future. He wanted to let her know that even without her, he would still be able to walk his own path. It seems that you have some misunderstanding about me. Luo Xining pursed her lips and took a step back, pretending to be weak. I know that big sister hates me for suggesting that you go to the Nine Magi Mountain for training. But I didn't expect the Nine Magi Mountain to have such a huge change. Luo Xining's voice was gentle and filled with regret. Fortunately, big sister, you are fine. Otherwise, I don't know how much I would regret and blame myself. However, I also want to thank big sister. Because I was too sad about your departure, I realized that my martial arts level had broken through the shackles and increased by a few levels. As she spoke, she looked at Luo Qingtong. Slowly, she enunciated each word clearly. I am now a stage 4 martial master. Big sister, are you happy for me? When Luo Xining mentioned stage 4 martial master, her eyes flashed with pride. She was very proud. Chapter 63. Luo Xining chose to reveal her cultivation level at this moment to provoke Luo Qingtong. She wanted to let her know that she was no longer the strongest in the younger generation of the Luo family. She was much more powerful and talented than Luo Xining. Luo Xining would only be able to make full use of her things in her hands. Luo Qingtong did not know what Luo Xining was thinking. She was looking at her dear sister playfully. Luo Xining did not know that Luo Qingtong could see even though she was blind. Hence she did not hide her emotions at all. Luo Qingtong looked at the pride and arrogance in her eyes and suddenly felt that it was good that her eyes were not cured for a while. At least these people who thought that she was blind and could not see anything were being played like monkeys in front of her. Oh, she let out a long and heavy sigh. Level 4 martial master. Very powerful. But sister, you should really thank me. Over the years, I have given you more than half of the resources from the Tianyu royal family and grandfather. Such resources are enough for an ordinary family to cultivate a general. You are only a level 4 martial master now? You have to work harder. Otherwise, people will think that I have fed all those resources to the dogs. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she followed Luo Xining's voice and patted her shoulder. A trace of undetectable energy entered Luo Xining's body from where her hand touched. She did not tell Luo Xining that she was already a level 9 martial master. The 9 Shaman Mountain was in chaos and the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace was born. She was lucky enough to not die. Was she afraid that people would not know that she was the one who obtained the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace? Luo Qingtong was not that stupid. If Luo Xining wanted to show off, let her be. Sooner or later she would know that the things she was proud of and showing off were not worth mentioning to him at all. Luo Qingtong walked past Luo Xining with a smile on her face. The energy that she injected into Luo Xining's body was not destructive. Instead, it triggered all the hidden injuries in her body. It would be fine if Luo Xining did not fight with all her might. But once she did, the hidden danger in her body would erupt. At that time, all of her strength would disappear in a short period of time. Luo Qingtong would not let Luo Xining die so easily. There were too many ways to make someone feel pain and regret. Luo Xining should be prepared to take it one by one. Otherwise, how could she be worthy of the betrayal and torture that the original owner suffered? Killing people with a hard knife isn't scary. Killing with a soft knife was torturous. She had killed Luo Xining so quickly. How was she going to catch the big fish behind her? Luo Qingtong entered the Marquis's residence, leaving Luo Xining standing behind her stiffly. The surrounding crowd was already stunned. Did they hear wrongly? Eldest Miss was calling third Miss a dog. Everyone looked at the battle between Luo Qingtong and Luo Xining in shock. They suddenly felt that Luo Qingtong had become so domineering after surviving the disaster. This was their first time seeing such a dazzling young miss. In the past, Luo Xining was beautiful, but she always looked like an extremely beautiful plastic flower. Although it was pleasing to the eye, they always felt that something was missing. Now Luo Xining was indescribable. It was as if all the flowers in front of her paled in comparison. Domineering. Bejeweled. Flying. Chapter 64. What was even more shocking was what Luo Qingtong said. Based on what she said, Luo Qingtong was able to become the second most powerful person in the Luo family because Luo Qingtong had given half of her resources to her? And Luo Qingtong did not make good use of it? Wasted half of it? Thinking about it, everyone looked at Luo Xining strangely. They never knew of such a thing. They always thought that Luo Qingtong was extremely talented. Now it seemed like that was not the case at all. Luo Qingtong was only able to cultivate a stage 4 martial master with the resources of a general. And it was only after Luo Qingtong got into trouble. This made them suspect Luo Xining's intentions. Did she improve her abilities out of sadness or out of happiness? Also, they heard that she was in a hurry to inherit Luo Qingtong's things after Luo Qingtong got into trouble. He even angered Luo Qingtong. The servants did not know about the incident in the backyard. But this did not stop them from making some guesses. Instantly they looked at Luo Xining with even more disdain. Luo Qingtong was really good at pretending. She used Luo Qingtong's resources to improve herself, but after Luo Qingtong got into trouble she immediately took over. She was even flaunting her abilities in front of Luo Qingtong. How could she be so shameless? If not for Luo Qingtong, would she be where she is today? A man whose heart is not content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. He was provoking Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong was blinded because Luo Qingtong got into trouble during her breakthrough in the 9 Magi Mountain. Luo Qingtong thought that Luo Qingtong had no chance to make a comeback. When the servants thought of this, they despised Luo Xining in their hearts. To think that they used to think that Luo Qingtong was a good person. They did not expect her to be so scheming. If not for the fact that Luo Xining could not control what happened on the 9 Magi Mountain, they would have thought that she was the one who planned Luo Qingtong's accident. This kind of vicious woman was really scary. Seeing how everyone was looking at her, Luo Xining was so angry that she clenched her fists. She was extremely frustrated. What Luo Qingtong said just now was like a knife stabbing into her heart. This was impossible. How could Luo Qingtong be so kind as to give her half of the resources? Luo Qingtong did not believe it. Luo Xining sneered. After dying once, Luo Qingtong has become smarter. Did he think that he would be able to defeat him just like that? Although he was surprised that she didn't die, her eyes were still ruined. If she was blind, what could she use to compete with her? Even grandfather Luo's protection was useless. Thinking of this, Luo Xining felt a little better. What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and carry second madam back. She looked coldly at the servants and said. The latter and the others didn't dare to say anything and hurriedly carried the unconscious second madam back. in the main courtyard of the Marquis Manor. Luo Qingtong stepped inside and was instantly dazzled by the colorful decorations. She stared coldly at the main courtyard, which had been modified into a garish state by someone and no longer had its usual tranquil appearance. She raised her hand to call in the guards who were guarding outside. "Did someone touch my main courtyard?" she asked directly. "There's something wrong with this place." Luo Qingtong stared coldly at the guards. The latter and the others were shocked by her stare. They didn't know why, but after eldest Miss returned from the disaster, she gave off a completely different vibe. Staring at them like this, they felt as if they were in an abyss and didn't dare to hide anything. "Eldest Miss. It's second master and second madam. You weren't here, all right. I got it." Luo Qingtong raised her hand to stop them from talking. It seemed that the second branch thought that she was dead, so they couldn't wait to take over the main courtyard. Luo Qingtong's eyes were filled with mockery. The original owner was indeed dead, but she, Luo Qingtong, was still alive. As long as she was alive, she wouldn't allow anyone to bully her. Chapter 65. Yes. Those guards were glanced at by Luo Qingtong's hollow eyes. They didn't know why, but they suddenly felt a deep chill in their hearts. He had no doubt that Luo Qingtong would do what she said. And when the other party said, "Throw them out," it was most likely not just to throw them out. She wanted to sweep them out of the house. Thinking of this, the guards immediately took action. Although First Miss was blind, it seemed that her martial cultivation was limited to this realm. But a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. Not to mention that First Miss was deeply favored by the old master. The guards didn't dare to neglect her marriage with the fifth prince of the Tianyu Empire. In comparison, offending Third Miss was nothing. Even if Third Miss might inherit the Lord Protector's manor in the future, it was a matter of the future. What's more, so what if she inherited the Lord Protector's manor? First Miss was the future wife of the fifth prince of the Tianyu Empire. It was said that the fifth prince had been admitted to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin and was one of the few heaven-grade students. He had a promising future. How could Third Miss compare with First Miss? Thinking of this, the guards' movements were indescribably nimble. In just a short while they had cleaned up all the things that the second household had done, including the cages, cabinets and furnishings that second madam had moved in advance. They were all cleared out. "First Miss, everything has been cleared out," those guards carefully said to Luo Qingtong, who was sitting next to them. Have you cleared out all those messy things?" Luo Qingtong glanced at the messy piles of things and saw many of second madam's favorite things among them. Her good second aunt really couldn't wait. She moved her home here just like that. She slowly raised her lips with a smile and said lightly, "Are they all here? Very good, then burn them all. It's also good to let people know that not just any trash can move into my main courtyard." As long as Luo Qingtong was here, she wouldn't allow anyone to touch the main courtyard of the Luo family. Burn them. When the group of guards heard this, they thought that they had misheard. This belonged to second madam and the others. Although it didn't belong to Third Miss, but it still belonged to the second branch. Among them, there were obviously a lot of second madam's beloved items. They were all going to be burned? These guards were not in the front yard and did not know that Luo Qingtong and Luo Xining were not on good terms. They still thought that Luo Qingtong was still the young lady who indulged Luo Xining in the past. But he didn't expect Luo Qingtong to give such an order. They were still thinking that after Luo Qingtong's anger subsided, they would send the things back to the second branch. After all, the First Miss was blind. In the future, the one who would inherit the Luo family would most likely be the Third Miss. Since they lived in the Luo family, they naturally had to curry favor with them. When they heard Luo Qingtong's order, they were stunned. "What? I can't order you around?" Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and stared at them with her empty black eyes. No. Looking into Luo Qingtong's eyes, the guards didn't dare to say anything. Burn them. At this time, who dared to hesitate? No matter how blind First Miss was, her identity as the future wife of the fifth prince was enough to crush all of Luo Xining's glory and pride. The group of guards quickly took action. In the courtyard of the second branch, Luo Xining had just sent the unconscious second madam to her room when she saw the fire in the main courtyard. Chapter 66. Luo Xining suddenly remembered that second madam had said that Luo Qingtong was dead and the Luo family would belong to them sooner or later. So she had already packed her things and was ready to move into the main yard. Now the fire in the main yard, could it be? Her heart skipped a beat and she hurriedly walked out of the door. Hurry up. Let's go and see what's going on in the main yard. Luo Xining had a bad feeling in her heart. The Luo family would not be on fire for no reason. Not to mention the main yard, which was such an important place. Don't tell me it's Luo Qingtong. Just when Luo Xining was thinking of this, she heard the voice of the maid outside hurriedly. Third miss. Third miss. Something bad happened. Eldest miss cleared out all the things belonging to our second branch in the main courtyard and burned them all. Luo Xining's mind went blank the moment she heard the maid's words. Luckily she didn't move there. And the things she got, including the heirloom armor and the recommendation letter for Tianyu branch of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, were still in her room. Luo Xining's heart pounded as she thought of this. She felt indescribably lucky. Then she felt a chill in her heart. Luo Qingtong was really different from before. If she was the old Luo Qingtong, she would never do such a thing. No matter how much she hated her, she would not vent her anger on the things in the second branch. After dying once, she was really different. But Luo Qingtong, even if you've changed, so what? I will never give away the things that are in my hands. Ah, my baby. Second madam just woke up. Hearing the maid's words, she rolled her eyes and almost fainted again. That little bitch who deserves to be hacked to death. How dare you burn all of my things? How dare she? How can she treat her elders like this? Second madam thought of her precious rouge, face powder, jewelry, and clothes. A lot of them were from Luo Qingtong. As the future wife of the fifth prince of the Tianyu Empire, she could always get a lot of good things. Luo Qingtong didn't ask for it herself. It was the royal family of Tianyu Empire who asked for it. There was also the filial piety from the aristocratic families of Eastern Fence Country and the flattery from the royal family of Eastern Fence Country. Luo Qingtong didn't have a mother, so naturally, those things were given to second madam, who was good at disguising herself. The latter had taken a lot of benefits from Luo Qingtong. Not only that, many clothes and jewelry better than those sent by Tianyu Empire were from the things left by Luo Qingtong's mother. The second madam was good at acting. Together with Luo Xining, they had coaxed the Luo Qingtong so well that she would give them her heart. Today these things were all burned by Luo Qingtong. Unable to bear the shock, second madam fainted again. In the main courtyard, Luo Qingtong looked at the quiet main courtyard which had been restored to its original appearance and nodded with satisfaction. Good. There are no more people's breaths. The guards lowered their heads and didn't dare to speak. They had also just found out that the things they had burned were second madam's lifeblood. Among them were many treasures of second master. They were doomed. But they couldn't blame this on Luo Qingtong. After all, Miss Luo was blind and couldn't see anything at all, right? If they had known, they would have told Miss that those things were important to the second branch. They complained in their hearts, but they didn't dare to show it on their faces. At this moment, a loud and clear voice choked with sobs suddenly rang out from outside. Chapter 67. A sonorous and burly figure rushed in from the outside. Before Luo Qingtong could stand up, she was hugged tightly by the burly figure. Qingtong. Grandpa's Qingtong. When old Master Luo received the news that Luo Qingtong was back, he rushed back to the Luo family without even taking off his blood-red armor. He had been searching for Luo Qingtong's whereabouts all this time. The Jiuwu mountain range was huge. With the appearance of the Immortal Sect's ruins, there was an endless stream of people coming here. It was not easy to search. There were corpses everywhere. Old Master Luo was worried about whether he could find a corpse or not. If he found a corpse, he was afraid of seeing his beloved granddaughter die. If he couldn't find a corpse, he was afraid that Luo Qingtong's corpse would not even be whole. He was tormented by the tossing and turning. Now that he was hugging Luo Qingtong, he could feel the warmth of her body in his arms. Instantly, tears welled up in his eyes. Qingtong. I'm sorry. It's Grandpa's fault. I shouldn't have left you alone at home. If he was not at home, Qingtong would not have gone to the Jiuwu mountain alone to break through. If he was at home, he would have stopped her. Fortunately, she was fine. Otherwise, he would never forgive himself. Luo Qingtong was hugged by old Master Luo. She did not know what to feel. She could have avoided old Master Luo's embrace just now. But for some reason, when she saw this white-haired old man with red eyes and tears in his eyes, she could not move her feet away. "Grandpa," Luo Qingtong called out softly. She felt the old man's body tremble even more. The robe on his shoulders was soaked. It was obvious how sad and emotional old Master Luo was. Luo Qingtong remembered that old Master Luo had always been very stern and solemn in the original owner's memory. The original owner was even a little afraid of old Master Luo. She always felt that Grandpa was too strict. She preferred to be with Luo Xinning and Second Madam because they treated her well. Now who was the one who treated her well? Luo Xinning and Second Madam treated her well, but after killing her, they couldn't wait to take over her position. And old man Luo, the strict and fierce grandfather in the original host's heart, was looking for her everywhere. Isn't the situation at the Nine Magi Mountain dangerous? Old Master Luo was just a marquis from a small, inferior country. If he accidentally angered the powerful people from the powerful countries, he might be in danger. In this family, who was the one who was truly good to her, the original host really couldn't see it clearly. "Grandpa, don't cry. I'm fine. Look, I'm back safely." Luo Qingtong softened her voice. She didn't have any relatives in her previous life. She was abandoned as soon as she was born because she was born with a pair of blood-red eyes. It was too scary. Luo Qingtong was raised by a beggar who picked up garbage. However, that beggar's life was too unlucky. When Luo Qingtong finally realized that her blood eyes ability could allow them to live a good life, that beggar finally died of a serious illness due to years of hunger and cold. From then on, Luo Qingtong was alone in this world. She was eccentric, evil, willful, and did things her own way. Because in that world there was no one worth her attention. After Luo Qingtong became famous, her biological parents came to find her and wanted to acknowledge her. Unfortunately, she didn't care. Thinking of that unpleasant experience, Luo Qingtong's face suddenly turned cold. Then she was pulled back to reality by old Master Luo's action of hugging her and crying. "All right, Grandpa, I'm really fine. When did you become so childish?" Luo Qingtong's face was full of helplessness, but her heart was moved. "Original host, if you don't cherish this family, then give it to me." Chapter 68. How can you say you're fine when you're blind? Do you have to come back with a broken arm or a broken leg to be considered fine? Old Master Luo's eyes were bloodshot as he said in exasperation. "Tell Grandpa who did this to you. Was it Luo Xinning?" "Grandpa, it's okay. It's all in the past. Those who hurt me will get their retribution," Luo Qingtong said lightly. Rays of bloody light suddenly flashed in the depths of her empty and blank eyes. She was the retribution of those people. The original host was dead and the one who came back was her, the supreme pupil of the 24th century, evil pupil Luo Qingtong. She would take back everything that they owed the original host. "Grandpa didn't protect you well." Grandfather Luo's face was dejected. How could he not know that Luo Qingtong didn't talk about it? It meant that it had something to do with Luo Xinning. If not, why didn't she tell him? But Luo Qingtong didn't protect Luo Xinning anymore, which made Grandfather Luo very happy. If Luo Qingtong came back and said good things for Luo Xinning, he would be furious. But now it seemed like his Qingtong had escaped death once. She could see everything clearly. This was good. This was better than anything. "After your accident, Luo Xinning used your reputation as a hostage to snatch the Luo family's heirloom armor and the recommendation letter for you to enter the Tianyu branch of the Great Qin Holy Academy. At that time, Grandpa thought that she had something to do with your accident. Now it seems that I was right. But it doesn't matter. She can't steal the real heritage of our Luo family." Afraid of touching Luo Qingtong's sore spot, Grandfather Luo didn't mention anything about her blindness and pulled her back to his yard. "Come, Qingtong, feel it. This is the real heritage of our Luo family. It's the symbol of our Luo family's glory. Something that Luo Xinning could never imagine. She can snatch the heirloom armor and the recommendation letter, but she can't snatch these things. You don't even have the right to know these things. In the future, these things will all be yours." Luo Qingtong was pulled into a secret room by Grandfather Luo. The design of the secret room was very clever and secretive. Even with Luo Qingtong's Do technique, She was still confused for a moment and did not see the existence of the secret room before Grandfather Luo activated the mechanism. The secret room was filled with bookshelves. Luo Qingtong's gaze swept over the bookshelves. To her surprise, she discovered that the bookshelves were filled with soul technique manuals and cultivation experiences. The Luo family's true foundation was actually this? Luo Qingtong's gaze stopped on a soul technique manual. She was shocked to discover that this soul technique manual taught eye techniques. The Luo clan's soul technique manuals were actually for cultivating eye techniques, shared the same origin as her. Luo Qingtong walked directly to the bookshelves. Grandfather Luo was afraid that she couldn't see, so he quickly went forward to help her. However, he was stunned by Luo Qingtong's abnormally quick action. He watched as she walked straight to the first row of bookshelves and pulled out a soul technique manual. He was surprised and happy at the same time. Qingtong, your eyes. Grandfather Luo spoke carefully, afraid that he would accidentally touch Luo Qingtong's sore spot. However, Luo Qingtong's action was too surprising. Even if he knew that Luo Qingtong was blind, he still had to ask. What if? Chapter 69. Luo Qingtong turned around and smiled when she saw how nervous he was. Grandpa, I didn't have the time to tell you before. After I went blind, I suddenly learned a secret technique that allowed me to use my mental strength to look at people. That was how I was able to escape from the dangerous 9 Magi Mountains. I was still wondering what was going on and didn't know how to tell you. Now I know. It's because of the Luo family's history. Luo Qingtong had cleverly combined her own pupil technique with the Luo family's pupil technique. She had just taken a look and realized that the Luo family's pupil technique was very profound compared to the people in this world. But to her it was too simple. She was born with a pair of blood-red eyes, and the use of pupil technique seemed to be ingrained in her bones. The Luo family's pupil technique was nothing in front of her. But Luo Qingtong would not say this out loud. The Luo family's pupil technique gave her the best cover. Even if she used all sorts of pupil techniques in the future, no one would suspect her. Reincarnating in someone else's body was too strange. Even though there were all kinds of strange things in this strange world, Luo Qingtong didn't want anyone to know her secret. Old Master Luo was very excited. No wonder you were able to escape from death. The Luo family is really blessed. Old Master Luo did not doubt Luo Qingtong's words at all. Luo Qingtong was the most likely candidate in the Luo family to be able to cultivate the pupil technique passed down by their ancestors. Her clear eyes were extremely in line with the characteristics of the vision of the eyes that had been passed down from the ancestors of her clan. It was said that such a person was born with the potential to cultivate pupil techniques. In the future, she would definitely succeed and restore the Luo family to its former glory. If not for the fact that Luo Qingtong and Luo Xining were too close, the Luo family would not have been able to cultivate the secret technique. And the ancestors had decreed that the direct descendants of the Luo family had to wait until they were 15 years old and confirmed that they had the talent to cultivate ocular techniques before they could know of the existence of this secret chamber. Old Master Luo would not have waited until now to tell Luo Qingtong about it. In fact, if not for the fact that Luo Qingtong was blind and broke with Luo Xining, Grandfather Luo would not have broken the ancestral rule in advance and brought her here. In his opinion, Luo Qingtong's eyes were already destroyed. Even if she couldn't cultivate the Luo clan's eye techniques, it would be good for her to be able to cultivate other soul techniques. His only granddaughter had already died once, and it wasn't easy for her to come back alive. Why was he still clinging to those ancestral rules? Therefore, Master Luo brought Luo Qingtong here without hesitation, regardless of whether she was under 15 years old or not. But he did not expect that Luo Qingtong would give him such a big surprise. Although his granddaughter was blind, she had accidentally awakened their ancestors' ocular talent. This was simply a blessing in disguise. Good. Grandfather Luo was so excited that tears filled his eyes. Qingtong, grandfather is relieved now. You're not really blind. As for your eyes, when you're stronger in the future, you'll be able to find a way to cure it. Grandfather is so happy. Grandfather Luo was very excited. Luo Qingtong heard him and smiled without saying anything. She didn't need to wait for her cultivation to increase. As long as she could find the antidote, the poison in her eyes would be cured immediately. Then she would be able to see. However, Luo Qingtong was not in a hurry to tell grandfather Luo about this. Her ocular skills were too heaven-defying. It would be too eye-catching if she revealed it now. It was better to take it slowly and let grandfather Luo slowly accept the fact that she had changed. At the same time, she could also improve herself. Chapter 70. Grandpa, you don't have to tell anyone that I'm not blind, Luo Qingtong said to Old Master Luo. Her empty and vacant eyes were curved and indescribably sweet. However, the smile at the corner of her lips was indescribably crafty and quick-witted. Just let others think that I'm blind. Sometimes the heart is only bright when the eyes are blind. Grandpa, don't you think so? Luo Qingtong looked at Old Master Luo meaningfully. Old Master Luo was stunned for a moment, then he understood what Luo Qingtong meant. She wanted to use her blindness to see many things that she couldn't see normally. After all, if she was blind, many things wouldn't be hidden from her. Or rather, she didn't need to hide from her anymore. Haha, Grandpa will listen to you. Old Master Luo was very happy and he agreed with a laugh. To him, Luo Qingtong had the ability to protect herself and be wary of others. This was something that he was very happy to see. After all, Luo Qingtong was good at everything, but her personality was too soft and gentle and she was too easy to bully. If not for that, she wouldn't have been hurt by Luo Xinning. Thinking of Luo Xinning, Old Master Luo's face darkened. Although he told Luo Qingtong not to care about Luo Xinning, it was because Luo Qingtong was blind. He didn't want to agitate Luo Qingtong, so he didn't mention anything about Luo Xinning and the two things that she stole. Now that everything was fine and Qingtong had activated the talent left by her ancestors, it was time to return the two things that Luo Xinning stole. Qingtong, I didn't tell you about the two items that Luo Xinning stole. Forget about the armor. Although it's rare, there's no way to use it. Even if Luo Xinning had it, she wouldn't be able to activate its full power. But the recommendation letter from the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin is very important to you. The Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin is the only institution of higher learning in the Holy Dynasty. The Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty has a boundless territory and countless experts. 99% of them are from the Sacred Institute of the Empire of Qin. The Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin had countless rare treasures, as well as countless powerful cultivation techniques and martial arts techniques. More importantly, there was the most systematic teaching there. With the guidance of the Holy Dynasty's strongest expert. This is the most important thing. Old Master Luo was very serious when he said this. Although you have the inheritance of the Luo family, it is still not enough. Qingtong, Grandpa doesn't know soul arts. Even if I did with my strength, I can't teach you either. You can only go to the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. You'll have better achievements there. The Tianyu branch of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin is a branch of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin in the Tianyu Empire. You'll only be qualified to enter the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin after you enter it. The Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty has countless territories. There are 8 empires, 3,000 high-class countries, 8,000 middle-class countries, and tens of thousands of low-class countries. Only a few people can enter the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Qingtong, this place in the Tianyu branch is very important to you. You can't lose it. I'll go find Luo Xinning now and ask her to return what belongs to you. Old Master Luo said firmly. Wait, Grandpa. Luo Qingtong stopped Old Master Luo. He was surprised. She didn't expect the place in the Tianyu branch of the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin to be so important. No wonder Luo Xinning didn't hesitate to betray the original host and ignore all the benefits that the original host had given her. It turned out that there was such a benefit in this. Chapter 71. If she entered the Tianyu Branch Academy, wouldn't she soar to the sky? That way she wouldn't be afraid even if she offended the old man. As for the benefits that the original owner gave her, how could it compare to the benefits of entering the Tianyu Branch Academy? Luo Xinning's ambition was really big. Luo Qingtong searched her mind and found that the place to enter the Tianyu Branch Academy of the Empire of Qin wasn't something that just anyone could get. It was a special reward given to the 5th prince after he was selected as a heaven-grade student of the Empire of Qin. Because Luo Qingtong was his fiancée and the future 5th prince's wife, The final place was given to her by the academy. Luo Qingtong didn't know how it was done, but she was the one who got the benefit. There was no doubt about it. Obviously Luo Exenning was envious of him. This place to enter the Tianyu Branch Academy allowed Luo Qingtong to enter even if she didn't meet the requirements for the time being. This was equivalent to the special admission of the universities in the 24th century. She had the privilege of being exempted from the exam. This was interesting. Luo Qingtong smiled meaningfully. The original owner wasn't liked by the fifth prince and the Tianyu royal family. She wasn't his wife either. She was just a fiancée. How could such a place be given to her? Was it really not done on purpose? And the person who sent people to deal with the original owner was very rough. It didn't look like they were used to doing such things. How could the Tianyu royal family, as the royal family of the empire, only have such methods? Obviously this was just someone acting on their own initiative. Luo Qingtong thought about it casually and guessed the truth of the matter. She smiled playfully. Grandpa, if Luo Exenning wants those things, let her have them. Some people don't climb higher, how can they fall more miserably? She already had a plan in her mind. She definitely wouldn't want that place to enter the Tianyu Branch Academy. Even if Luo Qingtong wanted to enter the Tianyu Branch Academy, she would do it with her own ability. What was the fifth prince? Since when was it his turn to protect him? Since the person behind the scenes wanted to get her into the Tianyu Branch Academy, wouldn't it be disappointing if she didn't go? However, it was up to him to decide when and how he would go. Moreover, even if she didn't want the spot in the Tianyu Branch Academy, she wouldn't let Luo Xinning have it. She would let Luo Exenning know that taking things that didn't belong to her would be troublesome. The more complacent and arrogant she was, the more interesting her expression would be when that thing that didn't belong to her flew away. Qingtong, you want to? Grandpa, don't worry about this. Anyway, I'm blind. Rather than letting others take advantage of this quota, I'd rather give it to my own sister, don't you think so? I think most of the people in the Luo family think the same way. If I don't comply with the will of the people, even I feel bad about it. Luo Qingtong smiled enchantingly and wantonly. Her face was beautiful to begin with, but when she smiled wickedly, it was like a sugar-coated poison. Her sweetness revealed an aura of absolute darkness and bewitchment. Grandpa, don't worry about this. I have my own plan. Now I want to talk to you about something else. I want to break off the engagement. Luo Qingtong calmly threw out the bombshell that she wanted to break off the engagement. Grandpa Luo was sitting at the side drinking tea. His granddaughter had become very good. After escaping death, she was no longer as weak and easy to bully as before. Chapter 72. What did you say? Old Master Luo looked at Luo Qingtong, who was sitting calmly in front of him, in shock. He almost suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Why are you breaking off the engagement all of a sudden? Didn't you like the fifth prince before? She didn't just like him. She liked him a lot. That was why the original owner was so heartbroken when she found out that the imperial family of Tianyu colluded with Luo Xinning to harm her. Even Luo Xinning didn't hurt her that much. Luo Qingtong sneered in her heart. But I don't like him anymore. Luo Qingtong looked at Elder Luo. Seeing that he still couldn't accept it, she sighed and threw out her trump card. Grandpa, this is the secret guard token of the imperial family of Tianyu. I found it on the people who tried to kill me. Oh right, they were hiding behind Luo Xinning's men. They saw me being destroyed and blinded by their poison. They were about to torture me. Luo Qingtong said casually. After I escaped, they rushed out and tried to kill me. I killed them instead. She then looked at the furious Elder Luo and said softly, Grandpa, Luo Xinning said I was too lucky and got in the way of others. I think I'm probably in the way of the fifth prince's meteoric rise. That was the only reason why the imperial family of Tianyu would try to kill her. Old Master Luo's hands trembled as he took the token from Old Master Luo. Pa! He fiercely threw the secret guard token to the ground. The veins on his forehead were bulging and his killing intent was overflowing. Bastard! Bastard! He gritted his teeth and cursed. He didn't know if he was cursing Luo Xinning or the imperial family of Tianyu. Elder Luo had thought of many reasons why Luo Qingtong was in trouble, including Luo Xinning. But he didn't think that the imperial family of Tianyu would be involved. He thought that even if the imperial family of Tianyu wanted to break off the engagement, They wouldn't do something so despicable. But now he realized that he was wrong. Not only would they not use such underhanded means, but they would also not use such underhanded means. Instead, he used an even more disgusting and infuriating method. Crippling his cultivation, blinding his eyes with poison, and throwing his granddaughter to be ravaged by a group of men. Just imagining this scene made Elder Luo's face turn purplish red. His eyes were bloodshot. Annul the engagement. He must break off the engagement. Not only did he want to break off the engagement. I want everyone to know what the imperial family of Tianyu is. The fifth prince is not worthy of my granddaughter. Elder Luo was about to explode. He didn't care whether this matter had anything to do with the fifth prince or not. Tianyu's imperial family had been dissatisfied with Luo Qingtong for a long time. Did the fifth prince not know? No, he knew. But he had never cared about it. She had once thought of breaking off the engagement, but he firmly refused and said that he would definitely marry Luo Qingtong. Plus, his granddaughter liked it, so old Master Luo didn't insist. But now, I'll leave tomorrow. I'll go to the Empire of Tianyu to break off the engagement. They had done such a shameless thing, so they wouldn't insist on breaking off the engagement. Well, the Luo family didn't want to marry Luo Qingtong anyway. Annul the engagement. The engagement must be annulled. Luo Qingtong looked at Elder Luo, who was like a lion protecting its cub. She couldn't wait to go to the Empire of Tianyu and question the Yuan family. She smiled happily. It was nice to have a grandfather who would protect her. Chapter 73. Third Miss. Third Miss. Something bad has happened. The next morning, Luo Xining rolled on the bed and fell asleep for a while. Then she heard a commotion outside. What is it? Why is it so early in the morning? She rubbed her forehead and looked angry. Luo Xining had been thinking about the changes after Luo Qingtong came back and how to protect the two things she got. She only went to bed when the sun was about to rise. Of course, she was not in a good mood when she was suddenly woken up. No, third miss. It's the first miss. Oh no. There was a female corpse hanging at the city gate. A crying old woman said, "It's our first miss. Now he's been captured." She said it was you. Third miss, you ordered her to go there. As long as she saw a naked female corpse hanging at the city gate, regardless of whether she was dead or alive, she would know it was the first miss of the Luo family. The servant girl who came to report was in a panic. She spoke incoherently for a long time before she was able to explain the situation clearly. What? Luo Xenning's face was filled with shock. Instantly, her sleepiness disappeared. She felt cold as if she had been doused with ice water. She had made such an arrangement before. However, after the change in Jiawu Mountain, she thought that Luo Qingtong was dead for sure. She had already gotten the two things from the Luo family, so she let it go. Why would there be a female corpse and a crying woman calling Luo Qingtong? Luo Qingtong had already come back to the Luo family. Wait. Not many people knew that Luo Qingtong had come back to the Luo family. Could it be someone else? As Luo Xining thought about it, a name appeared in her mind. Yu Wenxue. The seventh princess of Tianyu royal family, Yu Wenxue. She wanted Luo Qingtong to be hung at the city gate and humiliated in front of thousands of people. Her reputation would be ruined. That was what the seventh princess had suggested. Could it be that she was the one who planned this? Luo Xining was anxious and angry at the same time. That stupid woman. Luo Xining almost tore the handkerchief in her hand. Yu Wenxue was too spoiled and willful. Did she not know how to read the situation? Why didn't they discuss such a big matter with him before acting? He was really going to be killed by her. Luo Xining was furious. Just as she was thinking of how to draw a clear line between herself and this matter, a token suddenly shot in from outside and landed on her dressing table. Plang. We failed. Come quickly. Looking at the note on the secret guard token, Luo Xining almost broke her fingernails. You finally remembered me at this time. She gritted her teeth, but she couldn't really ignore it. Now she could only rely on Yu Wenxue. Luo Qingtong's temperament had changed greatly after she came back. Now that she had caught on to his weakness, he would definitely not be able to keep those two things. But hugging Yu Wenxue's thigh was different. There was no way the Yuan royal family would not help to cover up such a scandal. Luo Qingtong's eyes were blind. Logically speaking, the one who would inherit the Marquis's household in the future could only be himself. Those two things should also be his. Thinking of this, Luo Xining's face darkened. After washing up, she flashed out of her room and left the Luo mansion without leaving any trace. Send a signal to tell the Marquis that Luo Xining is out. Chapter 74. Drunken Goose Pavilion. Luo Laozi invited a group of Dongli Kingdom's royal relatives and heads of noble families to drink here to celebrate Luo Qingtong's safe return. Everyone knew about the marriage between Luo Qingtong and the fifth prince of Tianyu Kingdom. They thought the marriage would be cancelled because of Luo Qingtong's accident. They didn't expect that Luo Qingtong was so lucky to come back alive. At this time they had to show respect to Luo Laozi. They all came at the invitation. Luo Laozi booked the best private room in Drunken Goose Pavilion. Because it was a private banquet, not many people were invited. But everyone was an important figure in Dongli Kingdom. At this time, someone came to report what happened at the city gate. Luo Laozi was furious. When the banquet was in silence, the door of the outer room was opened from the outside. There was a huge screen between where Old Master Luo and the others were having their banquet, and the private room outside was divided into the inner and outer rooms. When the people inside didn't speak, the people outside didn't know there was someone inside. Just as everyone was wondering who had come in, they suddenly heard an exasperated female voice from outside. "Seventh Princess. Didn't I tell you before? I'll take care of everything. Why did you suddenly intervene? What's going on? The female corpse at the city gate, was it you who did it? How do you want me to clean up the mess?" Luo Xining was furious. She pushed the door open and saw a girl sitting beside the screen. She immediately started to make trouble. Luo Qingtong sat beside the screen in the outer room. Her head was slightly lowered, blocking most of her face. Hearing Luo Xining's voice, she smiled. The fish took the bait. "Seventh Princess? The female corpse at the city gate?" The people in the banquet were about to scold the person who came in when they heard the news. They paused. They glanced at Luo Laozi secretly and looked at each other. They didn't know what was going on. At this moment, a low female voice suddenly came from outside. "What did you do?" "Luo Xining, I don't know." Hearing the voice, everyone was shocked. There was someone outside. However, they soon realized what was going on. It was none other than Luo Qingtong. Just now, someone came to report what happened at the Luo family. Luo Qingtong was depressed and embarrassed to stay in the banquet. She said she wanted to calm down outside. Was that her voice? Was she trying to trick Luo Xining? Thinking of this, everyone's eyes lit up. Something was going on. Everyone's interest was completely aroused. There was a moment of silence at the banquet. They all wanted to see what kind of big news the Luo family was going to reveal. But they didn't expect Luo Xining's words. "You don't know anything? Huh? Yuan Shui, are you going to burn the bridge after crossing it?" Luo Xining's words. Because of what had happened before, she did not notice that there was something wrong with the voice of the person opposite her. And Luo Qingtong's SS. Hearing that the other party seemed to want to push everything to her and ignore it, Luo Xining immediately lost her rationality. "You really don't know what I did. I helped you lure Luo Qingtong to the 9 Magi Mountain to break through. I crippled her cultivation and blinded her eyes with poison. I even threw her to a group of men." Chapter 75. Bang! Before Luo Xining could finish her sentence, the screen in front of her was blown away. Grandfather Luo was like an angry lion. He stood behind the screen with bloodshot eyes and glared at her. Behind him was a group of aristocratic families and nobles who were already dumbfounded. Everyone was completely shocked by the shocking news that Luo Xining had revealed. Holy shit! What did they just hear? The imperial family of Tianyu teamed up with the concubine's daughter of the second branch of the Luo family to kill Miss Luo? And it was such a vicious scheme? The crowd couldn't believe their ears. But looking at Luo Xining's shocked expression, they knew that what they heard was true. While everyone was still in shock, Luo Xining was also shocked by the group of people who appeared behind the screen. These people were all important figures in the Eastern Fence country, and they were all gathered here. And Grandfather Luo was also among them. How could this be? How could they appear in the private room that she and Princess Qi agreed on? Luo Xining was in disbelief. Just then she heard Luo Qingtong's voice. Sister. Luo Xining, you are really my good sister. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at Luo Xining in disbelief. The most unbelievable part was yet to come. She would take back what they owed the original owner of the body. Luo Qingtong. Luo Xining also saw that the person sitting behind the screen was none other than Luo Qingtong. She went to the wrong place and mistook Luo Qingtong for Princess Qi. But the slip of paper tied to the token clearly said that it was here. Luo Xining's mind was in a mess. Before she could figure it out, Grandfather Luo stepped out from behind the screen and kicked her hard. Evil creature. Luo Qingtong didn't talk about how she was persecuted in detail. Only today did old Master Luo know how vicious her methods were. No wonder Qingtong's temperament changed so much. After experiencing all this, how could her temperament not change? Master Luo was so angry that he kicked Luo Xining from the private room on the second floor to the hall below with the power of a peak martial marquis. Bang! Luo Xining fell to the ground and rolled twice. She couldn't get up for a long time. Grandpa, she looked at old Master Luo, who rushed out of the second floor in anger, and her mind went blank. Until now she still didn't know how things had turned out this way. She came out after receiving the 7th Princess Secret Guard token. How did she end up in old Master Luo's banquet? At this moment she saw Luo Qingtong. The latter was dressed in green and looked like a fairy. She was devastatingly beautiful. That simple green robe made her feel like a fairy in the forest. The girl walked out from behind old Luo and looked at Luo Xining calmly. You failed. Come quickly. Luo Xining saw her lips move slightly and said silently. These were clearly the words she had seen on the note. It was her. All of this was done by Luo Qingtong. She was the one who set the trap for her. She said that she was in cahoots with the 7th princess? Luo Xinning regained her senses and was instantly enraged. She spat out a mouthful of blood. She had treated Luo Qingtong like a fool for more than 10 years. She did not expect that she would fall into her trap. How could she accept this? Luo Xining fainted in an instant. What a disgrace. Old Master Luo was still angry. He waved his hand and ordered people to carry Luo Xining back. He raised his head and looked at the people who had yet to recover from their shock. He shouted angrily, "Everyone has seen what happened today. We can't afford to marry into the Tianyu royal family. We will cancel the engagement immediately. When the time comes, please be my witness." As he spoke, he cupped his fists and left with his men. Chapter 76. The Luo Manor wants to break off the engagement with the Tianyu Empire's royal family. And the target was the 5th prince, who was favored by the heavens. In an instant, this rumor spread throughout Windgaze City and even to distant cities. Among them there were those who didn't know the truth. But after learning the ins and outs of the matter, they all supported Grandfather Luo's actions. They all said that he was a man of courage and wouldn't mistreat his granddaughter for the sake of the Tianyu Empire's royal family. Others said that Grandfather Luo was a fool. A son-in-law like the 5th prince couldn't be found even with a lantern. But Grandfather Luo actually pushed it out. Someone immediately retorted. This Tianyu Empire's royal family is so vicious to Luo Qingtong. Who knows if she'll live long enough to marry him. It's better to break off the engagement as soon as possible. That way they won't lose a beautiful granddaughter. Regardless of the rumors, Grandfather Luo left Eastern Fence Country for the Tianyu Empire to break off the engagement. He received the personal testimonies from the various patriarchs and nobles. Then he immediately set off without any delay. After returning to the Luo Manor, Luo Qingtong locked herself in Grandfather Luo's secret room and flipped through all the soul technique manuals inside. She was very clear about the Luo Manor's situation. Don't think that the Marquis Manor is second only to one person in Eastern Fence Country. But that's because of the engagement between Luo Qingtong and Yuan Mo. Once the two families break off the engagement, there will be countless people vying to replace the Luo Manor. Even the Eastern Fence Country's royal family's attitude towards the Luo Manor will change. Grandfather Luo cherished his granddaughter, so he never mentioned these matters in front of her. Not to mention the impact of the annulment on the Luo Manor. Grandfather Luo probably wanted her to take the blame. But how could Luo Qingtong pretend she didn't know? She was the one who wanted to break off the engagement, so naturally she should bear the responsibility. Luo Qingtong lightly tapped the desk and placed the last soul technique manual back on the shelf. Luo Qingtong's eye technique never forgets. As long as she sees it once, she can completely remember it in her mind. The next time he wanted to look at it again, all he had to do was recall it a little. In just a few days' time, Luo Qingtong had already read through almost all of the soul technique manuals in this secret room. He also had a certain understanding of soul masters. A soul master was a powerhouse who was born with a soul imprint. Legend had it that the soul had a spirit. Since the birth of a human, the soul already possessed spirituality. It was just that this kind of spirituality was hidden in the human soul and was extremely difficult to discover and activate. And the soul seal was the symbol of the soul having spirituality. A person with a soul imprint had the talent to become a soul master. Different soul seals would lead to different cultivation directions for soul masters. Some people had a fire spirit seal, so their innate soul was highly compatible with fire. When they cultivated fire attribute cultivation techniques, they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Once a person with a soul seal successfully activated it and cultivated it, their strength would be much stronger than a martial artist's. After all, a martial artist had to advance to the innate realm, which was the martial king realm, to be able to cultivate a substantial amount of energy. But once a soul master successfully cultivated it, he would be able to display the power of the attribute. This was something that a martial artist couldn't compare with. Luo Qingtong spent 3 days to feel a little inside her body and touched the key to becoming a soul master. Luo Qingtong had a pupil soul seal, which could be considered a special kind of soul seal. Luo Qingtong didn't know how powerful this soul seal was. Chapter 77. At this time, Luo Qingtong realized the benefits of the academy. There were many things that even if one had an inheritance, one might not know. One still had to go to the academy to receive systematic teaching. After all, only a place like the academy could accept hundreds of rivers into the sea and teach a lot of unknown knowledge. It seemed that the trip to Tianyu Branch Academy was very necessary. As Luo Qingtong thought, she closed her eyes and concentrated on feeling the circulation of the soul power in her body. Boom! 7 days later, a muffled sound suddenly came from the secret room she was in. Luo Qingtong opened her eyes. With a whoosh, a blood-colored sword light seemed to flash across her empty eyes. Illusory sword eyes. This sword light seemed to have substance as it flitted across Luo Qingtong's eyes. But only Luo Qingtong knew that this sword light could invade the opponent's consciousness and kill them under the illusory sword. This was probably the legendary eyes can kill? She had just entered the entry level of a soul master, but she actually had such great power. Truly amazing. One had to know that only martial kings could release their qi and form a substantial astral wind that could kill people invisibly. Luo Qingtong was only a 3-star soul master. According to the classification of soul masters, she was still in the entry level. The Luo family's use of eye techniques was not as good as hers, but the development of this soul technique cultivation method made Luo Qingtong quite curious. Feeling her current strength, she was already a 3-star soul master. Luo Qingtong smiled. She could directly break through to soul master on her first cultivation, which made her quite surprised. But thinking of her physique that had been improved by the 2 treasures of the Immortal Slayer Palace, plus her second life, it was understandable that her soul power was stronger and her cultivation speed was faster. Moreover, her own ability was eye techniques. The soul technique cultivation of eye techniques was really as simple as eating and drinking to her. She did not have the unfamiliar and difficult feeling of others who had just started. Okay, we can go out now. Luo Qingtong was preparing to leave the Luo family. How could she not improve her strength? This time she was preparing to find the medicinal herbs to treat her eyes. Although she had an eye technique, it was inconvenient for her to be blind. What's more, the Luo clan's spirit techniques were completely different in terms of power compared to when they were blind. Currently, it was only a superficial cultivation method. Luo Qingtong's cultivation was still not obvious. However, the further back you looked, the higher the requirements for your eyes. With Luo Qingtong's innate blood-red pupils, once recovered, she would be able to unleash the full power of the Luo family's soul techniques. Under such circumstances, she naturally had to treat her eyes as soon as possible. Just as she was about to leave the secret room, Luo Qingtong suddenly remembered something. She immersed her mind into her body and looked at the 9-story exquisite pagoda. Little Pig was still howling from the heat. Luo Qingtong ignored it and looked at the little divine connecting beast on the other side. The latter was sent into the 9-story exquisite pagoda to be nurtured after the contract was formed. The demon-subduing pagoda only had a punishment function for Little Pig. It moved according to Luo Qingtong's will. The aura inside was extremely beneficial to demonic beasts. The little divine connecting beast had only been nurtured inside for a few days, but its entire body had changed greatly. Luo Qingtong looked at the white fur that grew on its body. It looked like a fox dog. A fluffy long tail curled up behind its back, gently sweeping back and forth. It was very soft and cute. Seeing Luo Qingtong's spirit enter, the little beastie opened its eyes and wriggled towards her. Luo Qingtong smiled and stroked its fur, saying, "I'll call you Snowball from now on." Snowball's existence completely made up for the unhappiness between Luo Qingtong and Little Pig. This was what a contracted beast should look like. Moreover, it would be very powerful after growing up. Unlike that stupid pig who only knew how to cause trouble for her. The little divine connecting beast was still young, so Luo Qingtong did not bring it out. Instead, she continued to nurture it in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in the study room. Immediately, a guard outside the door reported respectfully. Chapter 78. Missing? Luo Qingtong smiled. When did this happen? She asked indifferently without a trace of surprise on her face. It was when the Marquis left Drunken Swan House and you entered the secret chamber. The guard knelt in front of Luo Qingtong and reported respectfully. They were Old Master Luo's personal guards. They were extremely loyal and only obeyed Old Master Luo's orders. Of course, Luo Qingtong was also included. Your subordinates are incompetent. The third miss was kidnapped on her way here. We searched the entire Windgaze city but couldn't find any trace of the third miss. Please punish us. The Iron Guard's face was full of guilt. Luo Xinning was kidnapped from his hands. He couldn't fulfill the Marquis and Mrs. orders. He felt very uneasy. These days he had been guarding outside the study, waiting for Luo Qingtong to come out so he could report to her immediately. It's fine. It's not your fault. There are some people you can't stop. Luo Qingtong naturally knew what was going on. Tianyu's imperial family acted quickly. They took her away as soon as they got the news. Her efforts in getting people to carry Luo Xinning, who had fainted and vomited blood, back to her residence from Drunken Swan Building with great fanfare, were not in vain. She had spread the news to the whole city. Now it seemed that they really did clean up Yuan Shue's mess. Luo Qingtong sneered. This also proved that there were people from Tianyu's imperial family secretly in Windgaze City. But they knew that Yuan Shui wanted to deal with the original Luo Xinning. They also knew that Luo Xinning was bribed and ordered by Yuan Shui, but they didn't stop it. They might even have pushed the matter forward. If not for this, how could Luo Laozi not get any news in the Marquis Mansion's power in the eastern border country and allow the host to be completely schemed against? In the end, they didn't even find the body. Very good. Luo Qingtong's smile was unbridled and enchanting. She had more or less figured out everything she wanted to know. Then, every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Tianyu's imperial family, let's play. None of them, including Luo Xinning, could escape. Her blinded eyes must be filled with blood. Only then was it over. All right, you don't have to worry about this. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. The authority in the manor will be taken over by you all. I'm going out for a while. When Grandpa comes back, tell him not to worry. I'll be back soon. Also, if anyone dares to cause trouble in the Luo clan while I'm away, no matter who they are, kill them without mercy. Her words were filled with killing intent. The engagement between the Luo family and the Yuan family was about to be cancelled. It was inevitable that someone would take the opportunity to cause trouble. Especially those people from the other branches of the Luo clan, none of them were easy to deal with. For the sake of Grandfather Luo, Luo Qingtong wouldn't do anything to them. However, if anyone dared to join forces with outsiders to cause trouble in the Luo family, then don't blame her for being impolite. At that time, no matter who it was, they would all die. Luo Qingtong wouldn't let anything happen to the Luo family in her hands. Yes. The Iron Guards accepted the order in unison. Luo Qingtong nodded and walked out of the Luo family's gate. She walked around in a circle and quickly set up a highly concealed offensive and defensive formation around them. It was fine if no one caused trouble in the Luo family. But if anyone dared to cause trouble, they would die miserably. This was the trump card that Luo Qingtong set up for the Luo family to guard against the imperial family of Tianyu. Who knew if they would do something harmful to the Luo family after the engagement was cancelled? Luo Qingtong had to arrange everything properly before she could leave with peace of mind. Chapter 79. Half a month later, in the Blackfield subcity to the north of Eastern Fence Nation, Luo Qingtong wore a black robe and a cloak that covered most of her face, only revealing a devilish demon mask. She appeared on the outskirts of this city of darkness. This is the Blackfield subcity? The Blackfield was an extremely special existence within the True Spill continent. It existed in every major country, but it was also independent of them. Every country, whether it was a high-class country, a low-class country, or even a super country like the Tianyu Empire, had its own subsidy. Within the Blackfield you could do anything you wanted. You could buy anything you wanted. You could even assassinate anyone you wanted. As long as it was a transaction, as long as you could pay the price, there was nothing that the Blackfield didn't dare to do. This was a land of darkness. It was also called the Dark Sanctuary by the cultivators of the True Spill continent. Even the four holy dynasties had no way to deal with it. No one knew who the mastermind behind the Blackfield was. They only knew that his title was Dark and that he called himself Dark Lord. Within the Blackfield he was the sole ruler and law. To be able to make the various holy dynasties helpless, and even allow such a completely independent city to appear within their own territory, this Dark Lord's strength was likely to reach the heavens and earth. And now Luo Qingtong wanted to enter this Blackfield subcity located within the Eastern Fence Nation. She wanted to find the antidote materials that she needed. After returning from the 9 Magus Mountains without any success, she knew that if she wanted to find the antidote materials she needed, she could only do so in a place like the Blackfield that didn't fear the various holy dynasties and had tentacles that covered the entire continent. But the Blackfield wasn't so easy to enter. Shua. Luo Qingtong's figure flew up, her sleeves fluttering in the wind. She was like a vigorous hawk as she flew towards the massive main city in front of her. Outside the Blackfield subcity, a massive moat appeared in Luo Qingtong's line of sight. This moat was filled with white bones. Some of the cultivators' corpses hadn't been completely corroded yet. They floated along with the waves of the moat. Countless weapons and treasures floated in the moat, but no one dared to go down and pick them up. This moat was also known as the Yellow Spring Path. As long as one fell into it, even a Martial King-level powerhouse would be corroded in a second, turning into one of the skeletons. It was said that the Blackfield subcity had countless cities. The power of the moat was closely related to the countryate. This was a black domain city of the Eastern Fence Nation. The moat surrounding the city was only strong enough to corrode martial kings. This showed how terrifying Blackfield's strength was. In order to enter the Blackfield, one must have the strength to pass through the Yellow Springs Path. At this moment, there were only bare chains on the Yellow Springs Path. There was nothing on the chain that one could lean on. When the wind blew, the chains swung violently and clanged against each other from time to time. When Luo Qingtong reached the shore, she heard a series of miserable screams. Someone was unable to stabilize himself and fell into the Yellow Spring. In an instant he was submerged by the corrosive river water. To pass through the Yellow Springs Path one had to rely on strength, luck and vision. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. She swept a glance at Huang Quandao and was about to get up. Chapter 80. Rumble. A huge gust of wind swept over Luo Qingtong's head from behind. At the same time a series of exclamations followed. A flying ship. Wow. It's so big. I wonder what grade of magic treasure it is. So powerful. Exclamations entered her ears. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked up at the sky. She saw a huge, gorgeous spirit ship sweeping over her head. As the spirit ship flew, it swept up huge waves and each gust of wind had a great impact. The people waiting on the shore to cross the yellow spring path were all pushed away by the huge spirit ship's waves. Only Luo Qingtong stood motionless on the spot. Her figure swayed slightly, and the gust of wind that rushed towards her was all neutralized by her. The spirit ship stirred up huge waves as it swept over the yellow spring path and directly entered the Blackfield city ahead. When the spirit ship approached, the huge city in the darkness completely opened the city gates and welcomed it in. Sigh. So good to have a Blackfield token. An envious voice came from the side. That's right. Look at the grade of this spirit ship. It's at least an Earth-grade spiritual weapon. Even a martial Grand Emperor expert might not be able to have it. I wonder what kind of person is sitting in it. Sigh. So good to have power. Let's go. Let's also enter the Blackfield and have a good adventure. It's said that the people in the Blackfield don't care about your background. As long as you have the corresponding power, they will not hesitate to take you in. Hearing the conversation around her, Luo Qingtong realized that there was such a thing as a Blackfield token in the Blackfield city. With a Blackfield token, one could directly enter the Blackfield city without going through the yellow spring path outside. No wonder the people in the spirit ship didn't need to go through the yellow spring path. In that case, this Blackfield token was really a good thing. With it, it wouldn't be so troublesome to enter and exit the Blackfield in the future. That spirit boat was not bad either. He wondered where he had bought it. Luo Qingtong knew that this kind of spirit boat was specially used to transport troops from various countries. At the same time, it was also the exclusive vehicle for the nobles and experts of various countries. It looked really cool. In Luo Qingtong's previous life, everything was the best in the 24th century. She didn't even know how many luxurious cars she owned. At this moment, looking at the spirit boat, her heart itched again. If there's a chance, I'll get one. This way it would be much more convenient to travel. However, this kind of aerial spirit boat was generally forbidden in the military. If one wanted to own it, strength alone was not enough. They also needed to have a certain status. Otherwise, the various countries will not allow you to pass through. In fact, I won't even let you buy it. He wondered if the Blackfield medallion had such a privilege. If there was, Luo Qingtong would definitely get her hands on one. Whoosh. Her figure swept forward. After the spirit boat passed through, she directly rushed towards the moat in front of her. With a few leaps, under the guidance of her eyes, she easily passed through the chains that even Martial King experts had to be on guard. She was not affected by the wind and waves of the river after the spirit boat passed through. Looking at her figure, waves of exclamations sounded behind her again. Isn't this black-robed person too powerful? She passed through the yellow spring path so easily? When did the yellow spring path outside the Blackfield city become so easy to pass through? Could it be the benefit of passing through the spirit boat? Some people thought so and also rushed up. However, halfway through they screamed and fell down. At this moment, they finally understood that it wasn't that the yellow spring path had become easy to pass, but that Luo Qingtong was too powerful. Looking at Luo Qingtong's movements, no one would have thought that she was only a martial master. Furthermore, she had just broken through. Chapter 81. Senior brother teacher is really amazing. This spirit boat really travels thousands of miles in a day. We came from the Lifeng country in the west and arrived at the Blackfield sub-city of the Eastern Fence country in just a few hours. And we don't need to go through the yellow spring path. Those people from the Blackfield even saluted us. No matter which Blackfield city we went to, the people there were very arrogant. This Blackfield token is really useful. Senior brother, teacher is really good to you. A group of people got off the spirit boat and walked into the city while talking and laughing, looking very excited. This group of people were the new students of the Sacred Academy who came out with Yuanma to do things. Hearing their praise and envy, Yuanma felt good in his heart, but on the surface he smiled faintly. When all of you junior brothers become stronger, teacher will also think highly of you. Yuanma's words were very appropriate, and everyone felt very comfortable in their hearts. They smiled and complimented each other. By then, senior brother will definitely be even more powerful. Not everyone can be accepted as teacher's last disciple after entering the Sacred Academy. Yes, we are definitely not as good as senior brother. But speaking of which, this Blackfield token is really rare. I heard that teacher only coincidentally helped the people of the Blackfield to get this lowest level Blackfield token of the Blackfield by chance. If it's a higher level silver or gold Blackfield token, you will have even greater authority in the Blackfield city. Yes. I heard that if it's a platinum Blackfield token, you can freely mobilize the power of any Blackfield city other than the Blackfield main city. Not only that, you can go to any Blackfield city in the future and be given a grand welcome. Even the city lord will have to personally welcome you. As the group was talking, they suddenly heard a loud rumbling sound outside. Then, above the entire Blackfield city, the forbidden sky barrier opened and the main city flew up. At the same time, the aura of countless powerhouses flew up from every corner of the Blackfield city. Among them there were both martial artists and soul masters. What was different about them was that they were all wearing clothes that only Blackfield residents would wear, and their bodies were decorated with the Blackfield's totem. The aura of the person at the front was completely different from the others. Astonishingly, it was much higher. This Blackfield's Castellan? Countless people were alarmed by this commotion. When they looked up and saw the scene in the sky, their eyes instantly widened. It was actually the Blackfield city lord himself. Move out of the city. Could it be that the owner of the legendary platinum token had come to visit? No, that's not right. Someone pointed at the slowly opening gates around the main city in shock. Open all 9 gates. It was Mingzun. The supreme of the Blackfield is here. While everyone was still in shock, an extremely beautiful spirit boat suddenly appeared in the sky. Previously, Yu Wenmo and the others had also arrived on a spirit boat, causing everyone to exclaim in surprise. However, at this moment even the most blind person had to admit that compared to this spirit boat, Yu Wenmo and the other spirit boat was a pile of scrap metal. It was a good thing that they had already parked their spirit boats. Otherwise, they would have been completely crushed by this gorgeous spirit boat that was both elegant and murderous, sharp and magnificent. As that spirit boat appeared, the entire Blackfield subcity was in an uproar. Chapter 82. In the spiritual boat, Bei Qing's face twitched when he felt the burning gaze from below almost penetrating the boat and stripping them naked. Master, I didn't do it on purpose. He looked at the man sitting on the throne in the middle of the spiritual boat with a sad face. He didn't know how he had touched the light switch. Xianxia looked at him coldly. Then he flicked his sleeves and flew out of the flying boat. Go to the heavenly punishment court to receive your punishment when you return. Yes, master. Master. Bei Qing hurriedly responded and followed him. A group of people flew out of the flying boat. As for the huge, luxurious flying boat, it also disappeared in an instant. Sumeru space. That flying boat actually carried the legendary Sumeru space. No wonder he is Mingzun. What a big deal. It is said that only the royal family of the sacred dynasty has such a treasure inheritance with Sumeru space. Mingzun has it too. And it is a spiritual flying boat. Mingzun is probably the only person in the world who has such a peerless flying boat with Sumeru space. Luo Qingtong heard the exclamations around her and looked up at the sky. Unfortunately, Mingzun's figure flashed in the air and disappeared without a trace. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. They could only see a few rays of light. They couldn't even see what the person on the flying boat looked like, whether he was round or flat. Luo Qingtong opened her eyes and could only see 3 figures. A silver-clothed figure with black hair flashed in front of her. In an instant, it disappeared from her field of vision. The other 2 figures, one in green and one in blue, were on his left and right. They should be Mingzun's guards. The people in this world were really perverted. Luo Qingtong looked on gloomily as they disappeared from her sight. She tried her best to see the face of Mingzun, but just like the man from 9 Magi Mountain, she could only see a blurry silhouette. Were all powerful people like this? Did they like to pretend to be mysterious? It was fine if they were ugly, but the man from 9 Magi Mountain was so handsome, but he wanted to hide it. Beauty should be shown in front of people to benefit society. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, she suddenly felt a sharp gaze coming from the sky. It was in the direction where Underworld Zun had disappeared. Her heart suddenly tightened and she quickly lowered her head. That gaze swept across her surroundings and then retracted in an instant. Xianxia was full of doubts. He had clearly felt that someone was spying on him, but when he looked carefully there was nothing. Was it his imagination? But why did it feel so similar to that woman? Could it be that she was also in this Blackfield subcity? If that was the case, Then it wouldn't have been a waste of time for him to come here personally. Schwa. The figures of Xianxia and the others completely disappeared from the sky. The experts in the Black Field subsidy also descended from the sky. Luo Qingtong patted her chest. Oh my god, I was almost discovered. Other than that man from Nine Magi Mountain, this was the second person that Luo Qingtong couldn't see through. Should she say that he was indeed worthy of being called the Supreme of the Black Field? That man from Nine Magi Mountain was the strongest man that Luo Qingtong had ever seen. More than half of his meridians were broken, but he was still able to beat the adult divine connecting beast to the point that it couldn't even retaliate. This Mingzun was actually on par with him. No wonder the people from the 4 great sacred dynasties were helpless against him, and he was able to establish such a huge dark force like the Black Field. Luo Qingtong patted her chest as she continued to walk into the city. In the Black Field subsidy headquarters in the city lord's residence, Xianxia landed and looked at the city lord standing respectfully at the side. Chapter 83. My lord, I've searched through hundreds of high-class countries and thousands of middle-class countries around Dongli country, but I didn't find the woman you're talking about, the governor of the Black Field subsidy hurriedly replied when he heard Xianxia's question. You didn't find her? Xianxia narrowed his eyes. The hazy mist covering his face instantly dispersed, revealing a face wrapped in a dark golden mask. The mask covered most of his face, leaving only a little bit of his smooth chin and a pair of thin lips. Under the mask, Xianxia's eyes turned cold. You've checked everything? My lord, we've checked everything. What about the Tianyu Empire? You didn't find her either? The Tianyu Empire hasn't sent any news yet, but according to their feedback they shouldn't have found her either. Then let's investigate further. Expand the scope. I must find her. Xianxia's voice was cold. He had personally come to this place for Luo Qingtong. He didn't expect that he couldn't find that woman even with the Black Field's intelligence network. Who exactly was she? Also, filter through all the information of those who entered Dongli country before and after the mutation on the Nine Magi Mountain. He didn't believe that he couldn't find that woman. Yes. The governor of the Black Field subsidy looked bitter. No matter how low-class Dongli country was, it was still a country. There were more than tens of thousands of people entering and exiting the country every day. Not to mention how many people entered and exited the Nine Magi Mountain before and after the mutation. He thought about how much work he had to do just to find a woman whose name and appearance he didn't even know. He only knew that she was blind but could see. Her cultivation level was low but she was very strong. She might even be a blacksmith or a spiritual array master. The governor of the Black Field subsidy felt that this wasn't very reliable. My lord, didn't you notice that there were many contradictions in this information? How could someone be blind and still be able to see? Her cultivation level was low but she was very strong. She might even be a spiritual array master. The city lord of the Black Field city went out with a bitter face. When Bei Qing and Feng Yu saw this, they looked at Xianxia and asked, Master, you haven't found him yet? No. Xianxia frowned. With that woman's ability he thought it would be easy to find her. She didn't expect that there was no news of her in the high-ranking countries. Could it be that he was wrong? She might not be from the Empire of Qin? Were they from other sacred dynasties? Let's look for her again. The woman you mentioned is so weak. She might have been buried in a high-class country or above. Or perhaps it was deliberately hidden by someone. Master, didn't you say that someone poisoned her with poison? That was not a poison that an ordinary person could get their hands on. Her news might have been intentionally covered up by someone. Feng Yu analyzed. Yes. Master, let's keep looking. We will definitely find her. But Master, do you really feel that your meridians are getting better? Bei Qing asked. He couldn't believe it. They were also very worried about their master's internal injuries. However, they couldn't do anything about it since they were born with it. All these years they had been trying their best to find a way to cure their master's injuries. It was the same when their master went to the Nine Magi Mountain alone in Dongli country. However, they did not expect that the information they had painstakingly gathered was completely useless. A young girl that their master had met by chance had actually alleviated the injuries in his body. Chapter 84. It's indeed better, although it's not obvious. But, it's definitely better. Yi Qianren was sitting on the main seat in the hall. She raised her hand and rubbed the armrest. Suddenly, she released the aura she had been restraining. Boom. Feng Yu and Bei Qing were forced to take a few steps back by the aura released by Yi Qianxian. This. The two of them were shocked. Feng Yu's eyes lit up and she exclaimed, Master. The aura you're releasing. It's much stronger than before, right? Am I right? Yi Qianren narrowed her eyes at them. After my main meridians were repaired, my body's ability to withstand power has increased. If it was before, my meridians would have been broken by now. Yi Qianxian's voice was calm as he looked into the distance. Not only that, my meridians haven't been injured for the past half a month. Although I don't know how long they can last, there's no doubt that they're longer than before. Master, don't worry. We'll definitely find her. Even if we have to kidnap her, we'll kidnap her and bring her to you. Bei Qing couldn't hold herself back anymore. It's not just a little bit better. It's much better than before. Others might not know, but they who served their master knew that the interval between their master's meridians breaking was getting shorter and shorter. His meridian's ability to withstand power was also getting weaker and weaker. Their master hadn't used his full strength in a long time. They were more anxious than anyone else as they watched their master's body getting weaker and weaker day by day. Now that there was someone who could repair their master's meridians and improve his condition, they had to find this person even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground. Yi Qianxian replied in a low voice. Then he thought of Luo Qingtong's crafty and evil character and paused for a moment. Then he ordered, This woman is as cunning as a fox. You may not be able to deal with her. Once you find her, just inform me. Yi Qianxian felt uncomfortable when he thought of how Luo Qingtong might deal with Bei Qing and Feng Yu the same way she dealt with him. Pass down this order. After finding her, no one is allowed to touch her. That woman, I will personally capture her. Yes. Although they didn't think that Luo Qingtong, a mere martial mentor, could pose any threat to them. Even if she was 100 times stronger, she might not be a match for them. However, Bei Qing and Feng Yu naturally complied with their master's order. Thinking about it, it was indeed more convenient for the master to make a move. What if the subordinates were careless and killed someone? Bei Qing thought carelessly. Feng Yu, on the other hand, seemed to have understood something as he looked at his master with a subtle gaze. He thought of the bite mark on his master's lips. Master, he couldn't be tempted, right? Just like Bei Qing, Feng Yu didn't believe that someone could escape from her master's clutches again and still dare to do such a disgraceful thing. It couldn't be that master, he deliberately condoned it, right? The more she thought about it, the more complicated her mood became. He didn't know that his master had such an interest. Yi Qianxian didn't know what his subordinates were thinking at all. He got another secret prescription this time, but he didn't know whether it was useful for his injury. Fortunately, his meridians were stronger now, so he could give it a try. By the way, he was waiting for news from the branch city of the Tianyu Empire. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.